So before I get into the braiding part of this tutorial, I want to share some tips and tricks with y'all about parting your own hair and getting those parts as nice and neat as you possibly can on yourself. So the first tip that I want to share with you is to make sure you have a double mirror set up. So that is like one mirror in the front and one mirror in the back, and that helps ensure that you can see the back of your head while you are parting those sections in the back. Step number 2 is to start off with your bigger sections. So I usually section the very front of my head, the middle, and the back. Then once I have those sections, I go in with my subsections. The next tip, make sure you are using some gel or jam or whatever to kind of help get your parts more crisp and more even. And then also you can go in with your rubber bands as placeholders until you're ready to start the braid to make sure that you keep your parts separated. So the hair that I'm going to be using is this Bobbi Boss Body Wave pre-stretched hair, and then I'm going to go ahead and separate the pieces that I need onto my thread holder. So first thing I'm going to do after I start my braid is figure out which side of the braid I'm going to feed the hair in on. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be feeding it in on your left side, but my right side. So since we're working with the left side of the braid, that means as soon as you bring that left strand over, that is your cue to feed in a piece of hair. And you are going to place that strand on the left side of the braid, and then you are going to continue braiding like so. Another tip that I want to point out is you have to pay attention to whether you are braiding overhanded or underhanded, because if you're braiding overhanded like I am in this video, then you need to place your feed-in strand on top of the braid so that it flows with the direction that you are braiding, if that makes sense. And don't worry if you're still confused at this point. I'm going to break it down and slow it down multiple times in this video to help you get the hang of it. Alright, so I'm going to repeat these steps at a different angle so that you can have a different view. So I'm going to start my braid off, and then of course as soon as I bring that left strand over, because I'm feeding in my hair on the left side, I'm going to grab a piece of hair to feed in, and I'm going to place it on the left side of the braid, and then I'm going to continue braiding the hair. Also note that I also placed the strand of hair on top of the braid as I was feeding it in because I am braiding overhanded. If you are braiding underhanded, you need to place the hair underneath the braid so that everything looks synonymous when you are finished with the braid. You should not be able to tell on the front or the back side of the braid that you fed in any hair. And so as I continued the braid, because these are going to be feed-in braids, I want them to get bigger, a little bit bigger and longer. I'm going to continue to feed in hair. And I'm going to repeat these steps all the way down the braid till I get the desired length that I want. So I'm going to continue to feed in hair on the left side of the braid. Now, as much hair as you feed in, and as often as you feed it in, that is personal preference. You don't want to do too much, you don't want to do too little, so you'll probably have to play around with the strand sizes before you get it just perfect. So here are just a couple more shots of me feeding in pieces of hair after the braid is already started, just in case you needed to see this a couple of times. The steps are literally exactly the same, and I'm going to repeat them again because repetition is learning. So since you are feeding in hair on the left side or whatever side you choose, as soon as you bring that left or right strand over, that is when you are going to feed in a piece of hair, and that is exactly what you do as you feed in hair down the braid. So this is the last angle. And I'm only showing this because somebody always asks me, how do you braid the back? And honestly, I do it the exact same way. I have tons of experience in braiding my own hair, so I have a lot of practice. The only thing that's probably going to be different is your hand placement, because obviously you're in the back of your head. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to be braiding overhanded if you want it to be as tight as possible. But the steps are exactly the same. I can't stress enough that the steps are always going to be exactly the same. So I braided each braid all the way down to my waistline, and then right when I got to my waistline, I placed a rubber band on each braid so that they would kind of be even. And then I rotted the ends of the braids, and then I'm going to dip them in hot water so that the ends of the braids will be curled. Because of course these are the Coi style braids, and they're not Coi style braids if they're not curled at the end. And so this is the finished look. Y'all, I loved the way these braids turn out. I'm tired of knotless because I feel like they don't last as long. But y'all, when you do finish the look, like, it's a look, okay? So I really hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. And then once again, thanks so much for watching. And until next time.